Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. It is Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, and this is the Daily Brief. The fighting on the battlefield is still hot. 15 to 60 Russian casualties, 8 tanks, 29 armored vehicles, 38 artillery systems, 91 vehicles and fuel tanks. But I want to tell a different story than follow the battlefield. We talked about that was at some length with Greg Terry yesterday afternoon. So please go back to see that if you want to see, like, hey, this is what's really happening on the battlefield. 62 Shahed drones shot into Ukraine air defense managed to take down 58, 25 by regular, and 33 by electronic warfare. So nothing really changes there. This is the British intelligence update, and there's something really interesting here. We're talking about corruption. Major General Alexander Aglobin has been arrested and held in pretrial detention, but in the second paragraph it says this. His second arrest demonstrates that Russian authorities continue to enthusiastically pursue corruption charges against serving and former defense officials appointed in the era of Sergei Shoigu, even after achieving initial convictions. The goal of Russian authorities is almost certainly not the eradication of corruption entirely. This behavior is fundamental to the functioning of the regime. It's part of the system. It's baked in. It's a feature. It's not a bug. Okay? Instead, Russian authorities are seeking to limit corruption to make it more manageable, to have less drastic impact on the functioning of the department. So they understand what it has done to them, and they're trying to limit it because they understand, but this has been pretty bad. Okay, so that's where we are within the Russian system. Okay, let's talk about a little bit of what happened last night. Loud explosions in Kyiv. It's 4:19 in the morning. This is the kind of thing that they're seeing. 9 injured. Russian attack at Kyiv. 9 people, including an 11-year-old girl, were injured when drone debris sparked a fire in Kyiv residential building on October 30th. Kyiv again suffered from a massive Russian drone attack last night, with another another residential building set on fire by the Russians. My tongue got in the way there. Okay, investigators of the National Police have already recorded more than 133,000 war crimes. Okay, so it's been 970 some odd days, something in that neighborhood. 133,000 war crimes. Like, that's a lot of war crimes. Okay, satellite images in the aftermath attack on the Special Forces University in Chechnya have emerged, so you can see what it actually looked like beforehand and after. Yeah, it's pretty clear that there was something hit there in a significant way. We had the other pictures yesterday. Now, Kadyrov came out and said that the drone attack had killed Ukrainian POWs who were allegedly held there, but he didn't offer any actual information, which, of course, he's not going to be able to, since he's kind of probably just making that up. Okay, Russian media report that a plant specializing in the production of electrical insulating materials is on fire in Moscow. Of course, this could just be a fire. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the war, but generally, plants don't just catch on fire, and sometimes they do, but when they are producing something that could relate to war material, it may very well be something more than that. Russian forces are advancing just 14 square kilometers per day in September 2024 compared to 1,265 square kilometers a day in March. So it's slow. They're still taking ground, but they're making ground over time, and it's a very expensive way of getting that ground. I think I showed it was like 3.5 square kilometers or something like that, like, something around just me within the space that I'm in per Russian casualty. And it's mind-blowing to see what they're willing to spend. Okay. Meanwhile, Russia is gaining steam while the U.S. restricts weapons packages to the smallest of the war. So, what we really need to be doing is put Russia on notice by shocking Putin. Greg Terry made this point yesterday, by shocking Putin into saying, they're serious about this. And yeah. Okay. Now, this is interesting. Apparently, the oil attacks have had some effect. So we went through a couple of months of like day after day or every other day uh, drone attacks on Russian oil supplies. Well, here's the outcome of that. Winter of 2024-2025 will be one of the most difficult in previous years. Now, that's because the Russians are hitting electrical facilities and things like that within Ukraine with their drone attacks. Okay. Now, there's three options. In the worst case scenario for the winter that's being considered is a continuation of Russia's massive attacks on generation facilities. Under this scenario, given the volume of electricity imports that we have today, may have a limitation of electrical capacity on critical cold days, up to 2 rounds of schedules or 8 hours. That would be brutal in the winter. Now, Ukraine and Russia are in talks about halting strikes on energy plants. Both Moscow and Kyiv have already announced attacks on energy facilities as part of an intelligence services arrangement, according to Ukrainian officials. Like behind, through back channels, they're trying to figure out, okay, if you stop striking this, we'll stop striking that. And here it is in the Financial Times. Russia and Ukraine discuss suspension of strikes on energy facilities. Kyiv is trying to resume negotiations through Qatar's mediation. In August, the sides were close to an agreement, but it was derailed by the invasion of Kursk region. And you never really want to believe something until the Kremlin denies it. When the Kremlin denies stuff, it's almost verifying things. The Kremlin called reports about Russia and Ukraine's talks on halting strikes on the energy infrastructure as a fabrication. There are a lot of throw-ins now which have nothing to do with reality. Even the most reputable publications do not shy away from making such fabrications, said Dmitry Peskov, that's Putin's spokesperson. Okay, well, I think something's actually going on where they're having these talks because it's disturbing the business model for the Russians, and it's making Ukrainians very cold in the winter for the Ukrainians. So something is probably brewing. Meanwhile, Zelensky was at a Nordic Summit. He shared that during the summit, discussions focused on delivering additional air defense systems to Ukraine, specifically the Patriot system. Additionally, Zelensky emphasized that all Nordic partners supported the Ukraine's victory plan. That's 5 different countries, so that's a good set to have locked up. Again, we're only going to be dealing with about 5, maybe 7 countries that are opposed to the victory plan. The other 20 plus are behind Zelensky's victory plan. So, okay, we discussed in detail our need for geopolitical clarity. An invitation for Ukraine to join NATO is a way to strengthen not only Ukraine, but all alliance partners. I think that's fair. A little bit more about it. Determination that matters. The 4th Ukraine Nordic Summit has taken place, and it was highly productive. In a war like this, the best thing to hear from partners is, what's the next step that we can take to support Ukraine? Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Finland, Sweden are ready to increase their support for our defense. All Nordic partners have endorsed the victory plan. We also share a common understanding of the need to strengthen sanctions against Russia, particularly to limit its ability to use a shadow tanker fleet to finance its aggression. Putin's shadow tanker fleet poses a global threat, and it's time to find a solution to overcome it. This was just mind-blowing. This is a second incident. There was a first incident where a child drew a picture of something, peace or something along those lines, and peace in Ukraine or something, and this was in Russia, and the father went to jail for this. Here's a second incident. A 10-year-old schoolgirl from Russian-occupied Crimea posted a video criticizing the Russian army and defacing the Russian flag. Due to the girl's age, her 38-year-old mother faces punishment and will be charged with neglecting parental duties and raising a minor. Like, that's how they're dealing with that. Russia is disseminating fake information and supposed drone footage alleging that Ukrainian military personnel are deliberately killing residents of border settlements in Donetsk region, according to the Center for Countering Disinformation. This is so abhorrent. Like, they're doing this to residents of Kherson, and then they're creating fake footage saying that this is what they're doing to these residents in Donetsk. It's disgusting. Slovak Prime Minister Fico gave an interview to Russian propagandists. Let me remind you that this propagandist called for the occupation of Ukraine and the killing of Ukrainians, incited hatred against Ukraine, and he's just fine with doing that interview. Okay, future technologies win wars. I love seeing these kinds of things of technologies. This is a robot dog that can go into battle and be eyes and ears, and even, I think, have some capacity to retrieve some things. And then we have regular drones, and he missed it. And he missed it again. And turning, turning, turning. And there he is. And he's almost there, almost there. Bam. Okay. So I don't know why I enjoy seeing that so much. Now this is footage of a surface-to-air missile team downing a Shahed drone. And that's pretty interesting to watch as well. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.